So my initial thought was, we kind of use video games to cope with things we can't control in real life. Kind of like how all the depressed kids play Animal Crossing since they have no control over their real lives. Which is exactly why I'm going to make a game based around your wife leaving you and trying to prevent it. Because if I can't keep her in real life, at least I'll be able to have a virtual one. Alright, like any good game development YouTuber, here's the funny clip of me opening Unity and giving it a goofy name. And like usual, you guys have the attention span of a 9-year-old with an iPad, and I really enjoy world design, so we're gonna set up the scene before we do any actual programming. And yes, I did basically take the entire background idea from Ubercat Overdrive. It's not stealing, it's inspiration. Don't ask me why the trees have white outlines. I don't know, and I don't know how to fix it. Now, the beautiful thing about having multiple projects is you have a lot of resources and code that compound on top of each other over time, which is the fancy way of saying I just copy and pasted my movement controller from last video. And now that that's all working, it's time to make the wife interactions. And we're gonna use this capsule as a placeholder since we don't have a wife model yet. And then we made it pink, because pink is for stinky, yucky, gross girls. Then I got the pop-up to work when you get close to her and a placeholder sound effect to play when you interact with her.
Aw, you're such a good boy.
Shit, I chose the wrong sound file. Don't ask why that's on my computer. It's a private, personal thing. The beginning of day 2 was spent with me desperately trying to relearn Blender. Unfortunately, I wasn't very good at it to begin with, so I ended up taking about half an hour to make a house that looks like this. 30 minutes. It's like 3 cubes. I also added this cool little like toon shaded outline to the building. You're probably thinking this is a Unity shader or some setting in Blender. Nope, I don't know how to do that. I actually just manually placed black cubes along every single edge of the model. And through some of the sloppiest and least efficient code you've ever seen in your entire life, you could now open doors. And one of the biggest gripes that people brought up in the last video, besides the movement feeling like shit, is that they didn't really know where to go and how to progress the game. So I added a little objective text at the top of the screen that kind of directs the player where they're supposed to go next. And then I also made it so that the objective updates when you complete the current quest. I accomplished this through some of the most complex code I've ever written in my entire life. Let me know if you guys need me to explain this to you. I also made it so that you can collect these groceries that count up one by one. How did I fuck up counting? Wow. And on day 3, I realized I needed to add an actual progression of objectives. Kind of like how every other game works. And the player's first stop is going to be to stop at the grocery store to pick up the groceries for your wife. But seeing as this is what my 3D model of a grocery store looks like, and I already know everyone is going to absolutely flame my Blender skills, I'm just gonna... I then made it so that the grocery store won't even open up until the player completes the previous objective. And with that all set up, the player can now interact with their wife, have the objective update, and gain access to the grocery store where they can collect the groceries for their wife. Ignore the fact that the number of groceries needed changes. I fixed it afterwards, but I'm just too lazy to record it again. But the important thing is that we are actually beginning to develop a fluidity of objectives throughout our game. In Zoomer speech, that means, game go quest to quest. Haha. On day 4, I realized the grocery store wasn't entertaining enough, so I wanted to add a minimum wage employee that yells at you. I don't know why. Am I beginning to get scope creep and probably shouldn't be adding multiple characters with different voice lines and animations? Yes. Am I going to ignore that fact because it makes the video more entertaining? Yes. Now, as much as I would love to learn how to 3D model, rig, and fully animate characters, that's a lie. I don't think I have time for that. So I found these really cool looking low poly men and woman models that are already rigged and animated that are made by Quaternius. Shouts out. And I'm just gonna... And then I made it so that they rotate to look at the player. Nope, that's not how that's supposed to work. Let's try that again. Nope, that's f***ing not also how that's supposed to go. Damn it. We'll come back to this later. The character didn't come with any talking animations, and God knows I don't know how to make one, so the wife kind of just swings at you when you talk to her. Then I also did the voice lines for the character that works in the grocery store. I, for some reason, also wanted to make it so that you could, kill him. I'm not exactly sure why, but now you have the option to blow him up with your mind. And that's how I learned to use the Unity particle system. That's not a Dani reference, you little 12-year-olds. It's just a part of the engine. I got it working, and honestly, this has to be the funniest thing I've made in a very long time. Literate minimum wage worker. All right. Day 5, I woke up to the power being out. Unfortunately, it continued to stay out for the entire rest of the morning and afternoon, and stayed out until I had to go to my real job that night. Which means I either had to choose to lose a full day of work, or come home after 10 p.m. and work all throughout the night to get work done on the game. And seeing as we know I'll do anything for content, I think we know what I chose. With my fate accepted, I set out to make a new objective during the quest line. An automotive shop. So I began working on a little 3D model of the building and this little Dr. Seuss-ass car. Then I just put it in the world and made it so the new objective updates to walk to the automotive shop after you collect all the groceries. And the general idea was your wife dropped this car off to have it fixed, but she was so incredibly rude to him and was just a monstrous, horrible human being that she made him quit and run away. Or end himself, depending upon how you interpret the note. With the auto shop all set up, I began to think about some other things I could add to spice up the gameplay inside the quest. And the easiest way to do this was to incorporate a shop where you could basically spend these wife tokens, which are things you gain after completing objectives for your wife. And you can spend these at the wife token receptacles to purchase upgrades for your movement speed or your jump height. I accidentally made it so that they increase exponentially, so you can just go game-breaking speeds and jump higher than the entire universe. But I think that's kind of funny, and I don't know how to fix it, so it's staying in. Now, we're getting to the tail end of our time limit, and the game still kind of looks like shit. So I ignored that and made a 3D gun model. I don't remember why. Then I made it so that when you collide with the gun in-game, your character will equip it. I made it centered like the guns in Quake because somehow the side of the gun looks worse than the back. Now that I'm thinking about it, it makes zero sense to have this gun in the game. I'm not gonna make it shootable. Not only do I not know how to program that, I just don't have the time to program that. However, I do think I can find a use for this. So I quickly 3D modeled an office type building and imported a new model of a businessman. And then I made it so that you can go to the office building and use the gun to threaten your boss into giving you a raise. Just like you're supposed to do in real life. They will give you a raise if you point a 9mm at them. That's real advice that I am giving you. Use it. Then I decided it was actually time to spice up the scene. So I added these roads and stole Bethesda's BBC idea. BBC stands for Big Black Corridor. Not anything weird. Then I added in some low poly vegetation and the new scene looks 10 times better than it did before. For the final day, I didn't want to try and add anything big that could possibly break the game and make it take longer than a week, for obvious reasons. So I basically spent the entire day adding a cute little bow on top of everything and putting it in a cute box. So I added a final destination where you just have to go to the laundromat and pick up a laundry basket for your wife, after you threaten your boss with a gun, that is. Then I added the final voice lines for your wife. I obviously don't know any women in real life, so I just had to use my own voice and pitch it up a couple octaves. We also know that I am an amazing storyteller, only rivaled by minds like George Orwell or Jake Paul. So when it came to the ending of this game, I hated the idea of trapping a player in a box where they only had one choice. So I decided to add multiple endings. When you complete the final objective, you are met with a choice. Either walk into the light at the end of the tunnel and live alone, happy for the rest of your life, or go back to your wife and live the rest of existence with her. I then had new scenes load accordingly with a Fallout New Vegas-esque recap of what happens to your player after you make the specific choices. Did I actually just find a way to compare this game to Fallout New Vegas? Then I made it so that the main menu was just scrolling text describing what the world and game is like at the beginning of the story. Then I made it so that when you choose a specific ending, the new scene loads accordingly. And with that, I think that's a wrap on Wife Simulator 2024. Could it have been better? Yeah. Has someone made a cooler project in the same amount of time? Also yes, but that doesn't matter. I set out to make a funny, interactive, somewhat looking game in a week, and I accomplished that goal. I want you to remember this. Teddy Roosevelt once said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." And nowhere is that more true than in the world of game development. There will always be someone who's better than you, smarter than you, and faster than you. But you do you. You're cool. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want extra behind-the-scenes content and access to these games a week early, subscribe to the Patreon. If you want more Trash Cans content, follow me on Twitch and hop into a live stream sometime. And if you want the chance to talk to me one-on-one and interact with other game developers or members of this community, join the Discord. And don't forget to subscribe. I think that's it. See you guys later.